Yo, this is Ozzy from Ozzy Boyds, and you're watching Reptiles Unplugged.
I'm John Feely of Feely's Clutch, and you are watching Reptiles Unplugged.
This is Wilmer Rose from Royal Canadian Reptiles, and you're watching Reptiles Unplugged.
Guys, it's KB Reptiles.
Team Helga.
Team Beard.
And you're watching
Reptiles Unplugged.
It's Justin from Jacob Luck Reptiles, and you're watching Reptiles Unplugged.
Nick with Renowned Reptiles here, and you're watching Reptiles Unplugged.
It's your boy Harry Wayne from Royal Canvas Exotics, and you're tuning into Reptiles Unplugged.
You're Triple B, and you're watching Reptiles Unplugged.
What's going on, everybody? Joel here from State 48 Exotics, and to my right... All right, what's up, everybody? So we had a little bit of a technical issue right when we got started here, but we are hopefully up and running now. So we got Adam and I here in the magic booth, and in our infinite wisdom, we decided to get a guest star here by the name of Riley, who you should be able to see on screen here now. So go ahead and just maybe pass it off to him a little bit. Riley, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll do that. My name is Riley Jameson, and I'm currently living in Sacramento, California. And I've been keeping snakes and reptiles since I was about 8 or 9 years old, when my parents caved and got me my first California king snake. And yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster since then, and it's still spiraling with a little bit of control currently. So
that's the struggle we all have, right? As reptile keepers, is a fine line of control and out of control.
Yeah, as you say that in a snake room behind you with just wall-to-wall snake.
Yeah, quick too. Can't find.
Wow, your room's awesome there.
Yeah.
It works. It's a little smaller than the camera probably gives off. It's the extra bedroom essentially in my place, but no, it works for the animals that I'm at, but I would say I'm pretty close to capacity.
Right. How many do you think you got in there?
I have a few geckos in here, an African bullfrog, some cockroaches, a scorpion, a couple tarantulas, a savanna monitor, and 95 snakes.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. Well, there you have it.
Right. That took some planning, fitting all that in, I'm sure, huh?
Expert at human Tetris, my friend. Yeah, a lot. Unfortunately, I've moved around a few times and had to figure out how to break it down, set it up, keep it mobile if I need to without sliding them. So, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a feature I feel like all of us snake breeders are actually pretty good at, is the Tetris game, getting all of these animals in the smallest area you can with still maximizing their space to be able to thrive and survive. I feel like.
Yeah, we can always fit more.
Yeah, just go taller now. Punch the roof out, get into the attic.
I mean, I think I could fit another 4-foot cage up there. I got this wall that I'll just block the window. I don't really need a window, you know?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm already utilizing the closet, so there's that.
Right. Put some foam insulation board up there. Just bloop.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that.
That's cool. Hey, everybody. Just wanted to say thanks for joining tonight. We kind of jumped right in. Wednesday is always a good night, so we appreciate everybody. Before we get too far in, I wanted to give some, people some opportunity to join us here. So this is Mr. Riley. Riley, what's your Instagram handle and stuff like that? Or
it's just Riley's _ reptiles, I believe.
Yep.
Pretty simple. And then if you look me up on Facebook, because I still maintain a business page there, it's I think it's just Riley's Reptiles there, and you should see a jungle carpet.
Right. So I got your Instagram and your YouTube in the description. If anybody wants to jump in there and snag that.
Yeah.
But I didn't do the Facebook because I'm a Facebook hater. So
He's anti Facebook.
yeah.
I do
That's-
on a daily basis. Like I forget it that I have one. So if you look me up there, I think it's just my name, just Riley Jameson, Jimison. So
Right. Okay. Okay. Easy enough then, I suppose.
yeah.
So I guess like while we're kind of getting heated up here, you were talking about how you kind of got your first snake there in the beginning. What drove you into this madness that we see basically behind you?
Yeah, I mean, oh god, that's so bad. Sorry. Did you guys do that?
Was that a train?
There's a garbage truck outside.
Oh, no way.
Same difference.
Yeah.
Do you hear my thermostat clicking too?
I can't hear it.
Good. It's gonna drive me crazy, but as long as it's not audible to you, good.
Yeah, you're good to go, man.
So the first snake was something that I actually had to spend like a year or two convincing my parents I was ready for. So that means probably around 6 or 7 was when I started learning about them and figuring out that I wanted one. And my parents were like, well, no, you don't know anything about them. You got to prove you're responsible. And so my dad and my mom split up when I was around 5. And so when my dad would come to visit, oftentimes it was right after school. We'd go to the library for a little bit before then going out to dinner and stuff. And oftentimes if I didn't have homework, I was looking at books on snakes and just learning about that. And then finally they let me take that dive, and I got a California king snake. And this was back when at least I didn't know. This is probably late 90s. Like 97, 98 or so.
Right.
And I didn't know about racks or anything, obviously, and all I knew about were glass tanks with slide lids, and I don't think anybody had the wherewithal to come up with a little drop pin or anything like that. So this thing got out all the time, right? I had it for a couple of years. It was like a regular thing. Like I'd come to my dad's house that week and stay there for a couple nights, and like he'd be like, "Oh yeah, your snake got out again." And I'd be like, "Yeah." So I'd always find it, but one time like got out for a couple months.
Oh boy!
What happened was we were at the house or the duplex, and I hear my neighbor scream, and we run over, and we run into her house to see if she's all right, because she was living by herself, an elderly lady, and my snake had fallen off her balcony over her back door and landed on her arm as she was walking back into her place.
No way.
She freaked out because it was right there on the steps. So I ran and picked it up and took off, and my dad, handled talking and everything.
Oh my gosh. Nightmares. That story's nightmares right there.
Yeah, absolutely. It was terrible. And then inevitably, because I didn't know better and the equipment wasn't better, that snake got out and never returned after that one. So I had it for years. So that was fun. And then my mom would always keep turtles at the house. We'd always have a pair of turtles in a fish tank, and we'd always spend a night or a day every month or so doing a deep clean and all that stuff together, and just always had animals, dogs, cats, birds, you name it. My mom's had horses since I can remember, so I've always been around horses, and to keep me out of trouble, she would take me to the horse stables so I wouldn't light the house on fire. And I'd go catch snakes and frogs out in creeks and stuff, and I had no idea what I was catching, but it ended up in my hands. Unfortunately, I didn't come across any rattlers out there because they're definitely some northern Pacifics there. But and then took some time off for a while. Then in college, realized, hey, I've got my own apartment. I can do what I want. So I ended up adopting a water dragon that was in some pretty serious shape and needed help. And I, went through a crash course of learning everything about reptile health and nutrition just to get this animal up to speed. And then found the Pomona Reptile Super Show like 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
No, more like 10 years ago. And went crazy. And I've actually made every Pomona show since
Nice.
that time, because it's just like I have to. And that's when I got a snake again. I got a Brazilian rainbow boa. And then the next time I went, I got a black-tailed karibo. And then I started finding all this YouTube stuff and ball pythons. And, you know, my breeding start was in ball pythons.
Oh.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not really. I feel like people don't really consider you like a big ball python guy.
And I never was. I'd only do like a clutch or two a year. You know, and my first pairing was a normal to a pinstripe because what I didn't know how to do was properly sex snakes at the time. And I ended up buying a couple animals off Craigslist and Reptiles by Mac and at a show or two and some local people. And didn't think to double check. And I learned the hard way that, you know, males are females, females are males, this and that. And so I just did a pair for the sake of it my first time. I sold them all to people who were just going to keep them as pets, really cheap, whatever. And at the time, I was fortunate enough because the local reptile shop in Santa Barbara, the store owner and I became very close friends. And he would always let me work the shows with him every weekend, and he'd pay me. And I could sell my animals there at no commission as long as I was also working the booth. So all of a sudden, I had this great outlet to not only learn about breeding and getting that part of their biology, but then not being stuck with animals and having multiple outlets to provide them good homes, because I wasn't doing anything high end or crazy, so it wasn't sought after. So I really had to put in a lot of extra legwork just to find these animals homes. And I did that for 5 years. But while that was going on, I was exploring other species, and I very quickly realized that other species had my interest a little bit more than ball pythons, and I actually ended up selling off all of them except one. The first like normal girl that I bought as a male yellow belly, and I still have her to this day. She's up here. And
Oh, that's cool.
No way. That's rad, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually have the first male normal she ever produced because my girlfriend wanted it, so he's here too.
Heck yeah, dude.
I ever hatched out, ironically enough, a male normal. So like, he's got tons of hilarious aesthetic value right there.
For sure.
Nailed
And
the
male
normal.
at that.
Yeah. So I did that for a while and amassed all of this and started meeting people and learning about everything else that was out there. I tried going back into ball pythons again, and I quickly realized that was just a bad idea for what I was trying to do with everything else. And then I got back out of them again, 2 years after. So before I got too crazy. So
Right.
oh, I need to open this. All right, the truck's on. It's hot.
Yeah, warm in those snake rooms, isn't
Yeah,
it?
the snake room builds up quick. You were showing us earlier. It gets 86 right now in there.
Yeah, it's 88 at the moment.
88.
Yeah, awesome, good times.
So, growing up and all that. Well, I don't know. What do you do for your profession right now? I think people would love to hear a bit about that. And kind of at what point, I guess, did you decide that was what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I am a zookeeper at the Sacramento Zoo, which is an AZA accredited institution, so some of the top tier, top standard zoos in the country. And I got started by volunteering at the zoo down in Santa Barbara while I was finishing up my undergraduate degree at UC Santa Barbara. And the real world was coming up quick, and I was, really trying to think about what I was going to do with my degree and work and all these things. And I'm not like a suit and tie kind of go to the office type person, so I was really dreading that. And so I started looking around, and my mom suggested at the zoo, and I started volunteering there and really just fell in love with the hands-on day-to-day work of caring for everything, because I did reptiles and a lot of birds and just whatever I could. And one day they offered me an apprenticeship 2 weeks before I was about to have to move out of Santa Barbara and move back home. And that ended up keeping me there. And from there, I worked for another 6 years as a reptile keeper there, a primary reptile. And would help out, doing whatever I could because we were a smaller zoo. So inevitably you also do bird stuff and a few other mammal things, but really just took off from there and got infatuated with working with crocodilians, venomous, anything really I could get my hands on, turtles, frogs, you name it. It's all up my wheelhouse. So, but yeah, it definitely spiraled. So cool. And then that's where that's when I really started maturing in the hobby side of things and really started figuring out that I wanted to keep more than just a couple pets around the house. So. Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that opened up your eyes, right? Just like through all the exposure.
Very different world. Learning about the vast variety of species and that you can keep them and that some of them are available and that, it's not like keeping any other pets. It's totally different. And then at the same time, I'm learning about this crazy world of animals in general in zoos. I'm also learning about the hobbyist side of it. That's like, well, it doesn't have to all be at a zoo. There are some things that you can do at home that are legal and manageable and affordable in these ways and tons of variety and flavor. And so you're telling me I can do this full time for a job and then come home and do a little bit of my own twist on it at home and never like not be having fun with caring for these animals. It's like,
right.
Me up.
That's a no-brainer, dude.
Yeah. So the only time between when I started till now that I wasn't working as a zookeeper was a 10-month period where I was in between jobs. I met my girlfriend down in Santa Barbara, and we got very serious down there. And after 4 years or so after she moved down, we both decided to leave the zoo. She got a job up here at the Sacramento Zoo, and I followed and ended up working in just sort of like a filler job for 10 months, working in like a geotechnical lab, doing basically dirt sampling. Did that for 10 months. And meanwhile, just started networking with everyone at the zoo and figuring out who they were, and just by social affiliation, hanging out and getting to know everybody. And then a position opened up and it just worked out. And so they sort of gave me like a part-time temporary foot in the door. And then, 6 months later, I'm the second reptile co-primary at Sacramento Zoo. So I'm very fortunate to continue that career with a little 10-month chunk of some added perspective of, what it's like to have the taste of it, leave it, miss it, and then really work to get back into it, and some clarity about that being what I want to do. I'm a busy person. I like working hard, and I like seeing the results of my handiwork in front of me, and often I do that with animal care. This is very gratifying. It keeps bills paid, and it supports all of this. And my girlfriend does it too. She's very passionate about a lot of hoof stock and giraffes and things like that. And we're really lucky to be able to do it for a living right now. So that was my sort of my journey, my motivation getting into it.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, that's such a cool story. Like, so do you do any curating, or is that all like a separate deal, or?
So each facility sort of organizes their personnel differently, and the bigger facilities tend to be able to break up job duties like that, where there is a curator who is overseeing a team of people in a specific department under the overarching animal care department. And in smaller zoos, they oftentimes have to have people wearing many hats at one time. And in Santa Barbara, we had it broken up with curators managing teams, but oftentimes there are working curators. Here, there are supervisors, but everybody sort of pitches in a lot, with the exception of a few office folks that are doing the bigger picture work. So we're a smaller zoo. We're about 13 acres tops in the middle of Land Park here in Sacramento. So we have the freeway, sort of a publicly designated specific park area. We don't even have a parking lot, and so we're a really small facility with maybe an animal care staff of like 20 folks.
Right.
Pretty close knit, yeah. So We're not huge like San Diego. We don't have like hundreds of employees or anything like that. But yeah,
That's still pretty dang cool, though, man.
Yeah.
not boring. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy to me, dude. I mean, I always, like, I don't know. Well, growing up, you know, just loving animals and stuff, I always thought, well, what a cool job would be to be in, to be a zookeeper, you know, or something like that. Like, that would be so wicked. And now I meet somebody who is, so that's really cool.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is it's nowhere near as glamorous as you might think until you meet somebody and then you get an idea. And then, I mean, we all know that animals take care, but for whatever reason, that concept seems to be very separated from zookeeper until you really think about it and you're there like, dang, they got to clean all this exhibit. They got to scrub the pools. They got to, you know, like, like, wow.
Yeah.
And then you really think about it, like what, you know, an 8-hour day comprises of. It's like,
Yeah.
work.
Oh, I bet,
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
I freaking bet.
Because I was gonna say, like, there's two philosophies out there, right? Like, you know, things should be kept like that, or, you know, minimalistic as well. So it's kind of cool. You live in both worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and yeah, there's a lot of added perspective being able to sit on both sides of the fence like that.
Mm-hmm.
Beneficial on one hand, but it's conflicting on the other, because here I am sitting next to racks with animals that we consider semi-arboreal, and it's like, you know, where's
Right.
but you know, then it just comes down to knowing your animals and paying attention to what they're showing you is or isn't healthy, and riding with it and just doing the best you can. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So through all of that, man, you've had so much exposure. Now behind us, you know, in your racks and big cages there, what do you mainly keep for people that you know?
I would say 2/3 of my collection is carpet pythons, and then the remaining third is comprised of various other, a couple pythons, colubrids, and boas. I got deep into Brazilian rainbow boas, so I've got, you know, a small army of them. I've got a pair of black-tailed crebos, some children's pythons that gave me a litter this year.
That's cool.
Got into Amazon tree boas last year, so I've got 2.3 of those. Like I said, I have a couple ball pythons. The trio of Madagascar giant hognose snakes.
Yeah, I was waiting to kind of get into those whenever we had a chance, because that's a pretty cool little story right there. I feel like with those.
Yeah, those are fun. Those things they're spunky.
Yeah. So that's like it is like a giant hognose then, pretty much.
Yeah. All of mine are adults, and they are all 4 feet and up.
That's crazy.
The males are probably, well, the one confirmed male is about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in diameter, and about 4.5 feet long. And they get big. There are 3 species out there. There's the giants, which are the Malagasies, the black and like the orange checkers. There's the blonde Hognose, then there's the speckleds. These ones are the bigger ones. Yeah, they're just a really cool rear-fanged species, but completely unrelated to the North American counterparts. A great example of divergent evolution, where 2 species on opposite ends of the world sort of adapted in a similar way to different ecosystems, but came up with the same solution.
Right.
Being the hognose, the flat-footing behavior, the rear-fanged, and the only difference is these guys, not only being bigger, they don't have keeled scales.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then, obviously, because they're in Madagascar, with importation being as challenging as it is, we don't know anywhere near as much about them as North American species.
Right, that would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense.
So, being rear fanged, we do know that it's a true venom. And some, like 1 or 2 documented cases have illustrated some reaction similar to a very, very mild envenomation. So it's not life-threatening, but it is something to be aware of. But like other hognose, they're very prone to other behaviors before biting, with the exception of one of those.
Are you allergic? Is it kind of like one of those things where like certain people get affected more by the bites than others? Or
I imagine, yeah, like if you're allergic, that's probably when you might get into trouble. Otherwise, you're probably fine with it. I have yet to receive a full-blown bite from any of them. I've had like partial bite that didn't hit fangs from one of them, but otherwise they're, true to hognose form. They'll hood, they'll bluff, they'll hiss, and they'll bluff strike at you before they ever even open their mouth at you. So.
Right. That's so crazy to have just like a bigger hognose doing kind of the same stuff. That's wild.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we're obviously nowhere near the number of captive generations with the westerns. So typically what you're finding are imports or captive hatch from imported gravid females. Occasionally you can come across captive bred individuals, and because those captive breds are probably from imports prior, what you're dealing with is a very wild animal that has plenty of attitude and instinct still very much in the forefront of its mind.
Yeah.
So they hiss, they're very reactive, they're very visually cued snakes, and they like to watch and see what's going on. They do really well communally as adults, and they will fling urates and feces at you quite frequently if you go to handle them and they're not used to it. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, are any of them handleable enough to show on the stream right now, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The big boy. Let me grab it.
All right, cool. Don't worry, we'll call 911 for you if you take it in the jugular.
Yeah.
Here.
This is a great shot of you, though.
At least he has pants on this time.
That's true. That's true.
I wish our channel was cool enough where we could get donations. Just keep telling you, shake it, buddy, shake it.
Yeah, shake it.
All right. So this is
That's insane.
the bigger of mine,
Dude, that thing is cool looking.
and he's in much better shape now than when he came in. He was a little thin when he came in. He obviously eats like a king now, but he's got this really gnarly scar right there.
Wow, yeah.
Whoa, yeah.
And when he came in, when he was thinner and hadn't had any really good sheds, you could see a lot of other scars on him. He's tried to eat him for sure. But he's got the best temperament, ironically enough. The other two, the female that dropped a clutch, and then this other one that was sold to me as a male, but I suspect is another female, they're pretty much flawless.
Right.
So, but this, yeah, I mean, he's a big boy.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. I've been looking at like hognoses in general lately because I think they're just so unique looking, and I just feel like they're funny, you know. But that is so much cooler than a normal hognose.
And these guys' rostral projection is nowhere near as like dramatic as some,
Oh, yeah.
like Easterns or the Southerns. It's not like a crazy paddle or shovel, but it's definitely like
It's scooped up.
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Dude, that's wicked.
yeah, he's a good snake. So
Yeah.
That's really cool. So Joel, make sure you're taking notes, right? On
Right.
new species
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Riley, you were gonna walk me through Pomona, right, and find me a new snake.
Yeah, we'll do it. I'd be curious to see if we find any of these there, because what happens with Madagascar is they have so much political turmoil that the government turns over rather frequently, and when it does, it usually impacts importation by shutting the doors for a undetermined amount of time until somebody decides to open it if they're stable enough for that long.
Right.
And that's much importation. So when it happens, people are like jumping on it, and that's why I grabbed these 3, because back in Santa Barbara, I had the pleasure of working with one that was found locally as somebody's pet that had been released, but she was all black, all melanistic, and she ended up surviving, being egg bound for a year, and yeah, so she was a sweetheart. After all the medical attention she received, she ended up just being so attractable that I fell in love with the species because she was such a wonderful animal.
Right.
And I get these little rocket ships, and they're just like her, and I was like, they're nuts. It's this tame right here, and I don't know if you guys can hear it, but he's hissing at me a little bit.
Right.
A little bit. And the other ones, dude, like if I pulled them down, you'd hear me getting like peed on. And,
Yeah, they're not having it, dude. Not having it.
Like, see coconut chips flying everywhere.
Right.
Chaos. Pure chaos.
Oh man, what a cool animal though. Man,
That
that's
thing
so
is
awesome.
wicked.
So there were a couple questions that popped in. Are there any morphs with the Madagascar?
Nothing confirmed, given that the first animal I worked with didn't have any of this checkering, was fully melanistic. I could see some natural variation, maybe in locality.
Okay.
Morphs. There are three different types of Madagascar hognose, so people might confuse those as morphs, but they are full species different.
Right.
But yeah, no, these are the bigger of the 3.
So kind of like the the Paulsoni, Candoya paulsoni, where you have localities like Isabella is like really white, but it's all the same thing. Okay, cool.
Definitely.
Dude, I mean, I'm sure somewhere in there, if there was probably an ability to get them readily, you'd probably end up finding them.
Probably, yeah.
But
Sure.
yeah, that's
And
wild,
then
man.
Bod's Exotics wanted to know if that was like an average size or a little larger than average.
I would say this is average. That I've heard of them even getting bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of them getting more like 6 feet. Or
Dude,
probably
wow.
Yeah, I would say these animals have been growing the entire time I have had them, and this guy, he hasn't been growing dramatically, but he's filled out quite a bit, and I would say he is bigger than when I got him. And he was a long-term captive in the States for probably 4 months or so. So he had some captive diet prior. I mean, these guys eat rodents pretty readily, but he's been continuing to grow, so I would estimate him probably around 5 or 6 years old.
Right.
Okay.
Two that I got are a hair smaller than this guy, but definitely still growing at a much more rapid rate than him. I have seen some photos of some big individuals. I would say 6 is probably the max. Average is probably more like between 4 and 5.
Okay.
Right.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and they're pretty mellow once you get them out of the enclosure. They just get a little cranky upstairs.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Territorial.
Yeah, well, they do this. They like to threaten you that they're gonna musk on you and do this. And if you have one like this one I have up there, he'll fling it, and it'll.
Oh, are you serious? He'll whip it at you?
Oh, and it'll hit the fan too. Like he'll pee on the fan, and it'll just go flying back. Helicopter. It's great.
Oh
Good
my
time.
god, dude.
I'm gonna put it back.
Yeah. Totally.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, everybody.
And
get
we
your
also,
tips ready.
yeah, I was saying, we also get a show, dude.
Get your tips ready.
This is right where we want to be right now.
I the window open and this one's spying on me over the window. All right.
Hey, MJ wanted to know when you're gonna get into pop ones.
the Apodora Papuans, the olives, I'm sure is what
I
he's
don't-
talking about, because I know he has one. You know, the responsible keeper in me says not until I buy a house. I've had plenty of opportunities to buy some of Dan's imports if I had a plan for it, and I could, you know, obviously make sacrifices if I was really going to do it now. But I think because I'd like to buy a house in the near future, I think that's going to be the first step. And then once I know I have space to put up, you know, an 8-foot cage or two for some of those big animals, then I'll definitely do it. I fell in love with that species the first time I ever had one thrust upon me, and I was like, yep, I need these done. Like,
Right.
take some time, but that's a serious animal, you know. They're slow growing, slow maturing, but that's an animal that will, you know, get over 12, 13 feet. So,
Right.
Don't they? Is that? Are they the? I don't know if I could be way off here, but isn't breeding those difficult? Don't they like fight each other or eat each other or something like that?
They're snake eaters. The
Right.
big challenge with them is, I think it's probably only been done a handful of times, and I mean literally 5 times. And the most recent one was in 2017. A gentleman out in Rhode Island managed to get a good clutch that hashed out, but otherwise, I think it's only been done like a couple times prior to that. A friend of mine, Todd Dyer from Psychotic Exotics, has a pair that he's had for, I mean, he's got to have had these animals for close to a decade now, and they're huge. They're massive animals, and I've seen him work them and show me like kind of where his thoughts are at during certain times of the year, because I've seen his facility a couple times, and I'm very, you know, interested in that species, and I'm really like supportive of his efforts going into it, because
Right.
that's a species he keeps and maintains and puts money into with zero return back because he loves it, and it's a super unique species, and I fully support that. And he's understanding those animals, but he's not able to get it quite going. And
Well, what a risk too. You know, after putting 10 years into something and then your male's gone.
yeah, so the thing with them is your female is going to get big regardless. You know, the general consensus is you don't need to feed a male big. They can breed at a smaller size. The thing with this species is confidence and compatibility. So,
Yeah. The poor guy's like, dude, don't send me in. She's
No,
gonna eat me, man.
I ain't ready.
exactly. So you need your male to be a good size. But, I mean, you know, a lot of python species can mature around 4 or 5. These don't mature until like 7 or 8 or potentially older. We're not even really sure.
Right.
So to me, they're like on that same level and same challenge as Boland's pythons. They're just, you know, slightly different, and they're both back like cryptic and unusual and understudied, and so they're just fascinating. But until you get your hands on one and you feel them, you see that truest of true snake green, even if it's two-tone, and then that slaty gray head with that marbling in there, and then it's short and bulldog, and then they turn and they give you that side eye and they look at you.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're a serious animal. They're crazy, but like it's one of those species that when you see them and you see that eye turn and look at you, you're like, something else is going on upstairs, and I need. So.
That's pretty cool, man.
That sounds
Yeah.
awesome, man. Yeah, like you said, you know, space, you got to be responsible when thinking about it. And, you know, some of these species, like you're saying, like that, I would love to have too, but down the road, you know, that's for when I get the facility up and going.
Yeah, heck yeah. Got to get that facility going, man.
I'll wait for a couple people produce some captive bred animals within the next 10 years, and then I'll jump and I'll have an even better time about it.
There you go. Yeah. So I got a random question for you. So we are vaguely a ball python enthusiast group here. So what do you think the best turnover snake would be from a ball python to something outside of the box? What do you think's like a good, if somebody's like decent, taking care of their ball pythons or handling that? What do you think maybe is a next step outside of that box?
I think carpet pythons work perfectly for that, to be honest.
Right.
I have a rack with carpet pythons and a ball python in there, and another one over there as well. And their care is similar enough where if you do that, you're not cutting corners, you're not shorting them. It's just, the size is obviously going to be a difference. The activity levels is going to be a difference.
Right.
But as far as maintaining python husbandry, they still need moderate humidity, kind of in the middle of the road somewhere at best. And, a hot spot around high 80s. And the nice thing about them is they tend to be pretty good feeders, pretty hardy, voracious animals, but with more of an intense feeding response. Not quite as extreme as something like a retic, but it can be.
Yeah.
And they're smart, and they can learn. So you can really make sure if you get a young animal that they learn what you're about and how you feed versus how you clean and all these different things. So and they're pretty hardy. They're pretty forgiving snakes as well.
That's an often overlooked attribute right there, is hardiness.
Well, the one thing that tends to keep people from even considering them, other than their misguided reputation, is this perception that they get huge.
Right.
They don't. My biggest carpet python is maybe 6.5 feet, maybe, for an adult female.
Really? Yeah. See, I am misguided. I was thinking like 10 feet, somewhere in there.
I mean, there are some coastals that you can certainly get that big, no problem.
Right.
Coastals have the potential to get the largest, especially certain localities. This girl cruising around behind me is a 4-year-old female, and she's over 6 feet. So, she could potentially push beyond 7 just for the normal growth rate. But they don't necessarily always get that big, and it's only a couple that have that potential. And across the board, you can really dictate their ultimate size by your feeding regimen. So,
right.
I have animals that have produced clutches and produce healthy babies for me that are under 5 feet.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, didn't know that.
And so do you do varied diet and kind of like sporadic feeding where like if you feed it maybe a large meal, you'll stretch that to 3 weeks, and then maybe feed it a small meal, and then go 2 weeks or whatever,
Yeah, so I do that, plus I institute just sort of a mental awareness of seasonal variation for them. So I try to give them a rather seasonal difference in frequency within that. So yeah, if I give this girl a large rat, the next meal she's going to get will probably be 4 weeks later, and it'll be a medium rat. But if it's coming up on breeding season and I'm intending to breed her, I will be a little bit more aggressive with the feeding and either go for shorter intervals or just like really big prey at a slightly faster than normal interval. But during the rest of the year, I like to, because of my work schedule, the one day off I have a week where I'm not like doing other things is the day that if I'm going to feed anybody, that's when it's going to be. So whether you get food every week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is, it'll typically follow that schedule. Babies I like to feed weekly until they get going consistently, and then I'll start backing off to every 2 weeks just to keep that hunger really there. And then once animals start hitting like the small to medium rat size or something a little more caloric, I'll spread it out based on when they go to the bathroom and their bowel movement and how they're looking and how active they are in their shed cycle. So I go through each sort of group or section of animals, and as I'm pulling food or putting down like what I'm going to pull out of the freezer, sometimes I'll look at animals and be like, well, okay, you ate a medium rat 2 weeks ago, let's see how you look. You haven't pooped since then, or you have, or whatever you're doing, and I'll kind of gauge it, and I'll say, nah, you're going to get another week off. And I just kind of, while my collection is small and intimate enough to do that, that's kind of my plan. But yeah, the seasonality feeding really helps with breeding, and then doing that helps, in my opinion, keep the animals leaner, healthier, and then also helps with the budgetary concern.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Man, yeah. So I mean, it's interesting. So I'm doing that with my super dwarf retics, like you know what I mean, doing variant feedings like that, and I'm trying to get my hands on some quail and some different fowl.
Yeah.
Just to throw that in there too.
Quail are fantastic to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk my local rat guy into breeding them again.
But
That's got to be an uphill battle.
Well, he did it before. No. So he made the mistake last time of telling me that he did it before.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I'm sure you would want to try and do it again for the right amount of money, right? Like, you know, let's talk here.
money talks.
Money
Yeah.
talks. Is there a chance you could maybe pull out one of those carpets, or
Yeah.
is that something that's off
Do you have
limits?
anybody friendly? Like,
Yeah.
I got a couple.
let's-
that are- yeah. Actually,
prove this.
most of them are friendly, but a lot of them are just food aggressive.
Right.
But
I mean,
no,
I feed at night, so like I have a tough time pulling snakes out right now myself. But
carpets will eat rain, snow, or sunny day and night. They don't
right.
disposals.
Well, you're pulling that out. We also had a question come in. Favorite carpets are your favorite. So, like, what morph? I think is what they're asking.
I am a sucker for stripes, so that's either stripe jungles or the
Wow,
tiger.
dude, look at that.
Dude, there is some serious color on that animal.
That is beautiful.
Dude, I love this snake. This is called a citrus tiger, and she's also a het albino, so she is not a pure anything whatsoever. She is coastal and Darwin. Citrus tiger is a line bred sort of polygenic tiger striping mutation that you see there.
Right.
That Eric Burke, who does Morelia Python Radio, that he's really been pioneering quite heavily, and I had seen them for quite some time, and then he produced a clutch with an albino, and so I was like, well, I need to have that, and a couple of them were some epic standouts, and kind of this like,
Dude,
Man,
that is
snake is
wild.
gorgeous, dude. Yeah. And how old is the snake there that you're holding?
she's a 2016, so she's
Okay.
3.5 years old at most.
Man.
She just started taking large rats this month,
Okay. Large rats. Oh no.
and the reason
There we go.
the reason I even pushed it medium rats is because I'm gonna give her first shot at breeding this year.
Okay.
Yeah, that right there makes me really want to go out right now and find a carpet that looks exactly like that.
Dude, that's some serious. So, not to talk about money, but what's like a price tag on like a carpet like that, or stuff like that? Like, what are our ranges here on these kind of animals?
Yeah, so as a baby, something like this probably run you $400 to $500. As an
Okay.
adult, you're looking, double that. I would say any wild type basic variants of like Papuans, Coastals, Darwins, those guys will probably be under $200 or so. Jungles can range anywhere from $300 to $600 depending on quality, lineage, phenotype.
Right.
Darwins, as normals, tend to be under $200. The albinos and hets, you're talking closer to $200 for hets and more like $500 to $700 for visuals. Inland carpets tend to be $400 to $500, $600. Red light tend to be $200 to $300 depending on line, and then there are some morphs within a lot of those. So
Right.
there's no there's a whole range basically, but that's kind of like the base stuff. And then the only species that we still currently can't get in the United States are the Southwest carpet pythons, and those are Morelia imbricata. But you know how that goes. Maybe one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that animal is wicked though. That's really pretty. That's. I mean, I know nothing about carpet pythons, but that thing is gorgeous. I've never seen one like that.
Yeah. So I mean, the striping to this line is semi-unique. Like there are some projects that are focused on the striping, but this color is what is really separating this project from being another tiger project, and then obviously being het albino. This coming season, I'll be pairing her to a striped, possible super caramel albino male. One way or another, we'll make some striped albinos and see what I can learn about that male, whether he's a super or not. Because with the caramel mutation, which is a coastal incomplete dominant, the visual and the super tend to look so similar and cross, such a range that you really can't be sure until you prove them out.
Right.
Obviously, being an albino makes it even more difficult.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
Yep. Makes sense.
Man, that's so crazy. That's a cool project and a beautiful snake. So, with ball pythons, we have lethal combinations or combinations that are really known to kink or produce, issues. With carpets, are there some things that people should be aware of right off the bat, kind of getting into?
Absolutely. So the most notable and old school one is the jaguar trait. It behaves phenotypically much like a spider ball python with the wobble, high yellow, reduced patterns, gorgeous animals, but with an unpredictable and variable amount of neurological component that ability, motor skills, feeding, all of that. But quite often it's just usually a head tilt and just kind of corkscrewing every once in a while, or if it's really hot or stressed. But the lethal combination there, Jag makes a lethal leucistic that doesn't develop the lungs properly. So the best people have gotten is an animal that pips out of an egg and dies instantly because they can't breathe.
Right.
So there's that. The zebra mutation, it's an incomplete dominant in jungles. When you produce supers, which are patternless, it tends to come with a kink in the tail, much like the batik gene in blood pythons. So you'll get a really dramatic variation in phenotype, but you'll have everything from just the slightest little bend of the tip to a full corkscrew.
Right. Wow. That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
So I managed to actually produce my first super zebras this year, and I was fortunate enough to hit a pair, and I'm waiting for this little male to shed.
Oh, dude.
He's a month old, and he's full of spunk. He'll bite me all day. Ow.
That is full of spunk. Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Got a 9-degree turn and a little fold there. So I wouldn't even say that's the most extreme. I would say I've seen worse, and oftentimes the general opinion is it does cause shed issues in extreme cases, is to sort of surgically snip off the end of it when babies are first born, so you don't have to deal with any significant bone development causing issues, and then just kind of nipping it out in the butt.
Right, that would make sense.
But they don't all have that, and they start out as that silvery color, and then they get more yellow and canary as adults. Not quite as bright and luminescent, like fluorescent yellow, like a lot of jungles, but with selective breeding, I imagine we'll be there in no time.
Right. Yeah.
So this is female, and you can see she really doesn't have much of a tail bend at all.
Yeah, just barely on the edge.
Yeah.
And have you noticed one way or the other as far as do males typically come out more kinked or anything like that, or?
No, I haven't heard anything to support a gender bias in that trait at all. So these are the first two I produced. So who knows? Maybe down the line, once more are produced, we'll see something like that. But oddly enough, this mutation hasn't. It's not new. It's been around a long time. There's just not a lot of them being produced, and I think there's some of that taboo, some of that mental people just don't want to deal with the kink at all. And
yeah.
you rarely see it where it affects their quality of life or ability to breed or anything like that. And who doesn't love a patternless yellow snake?
Yeah, that's so wicked. Yeah.
Very true. That's so cool. Bod's Exotic had a question. What's the average size clutch that carpets have?
I'd say you're probably in the 10 to 15 range. Seems to be average. I would say Papuan carpets are the smaller of them, and they will throw smaller clutches. So I got an 8-egg clutch for my female this year. But you could get, a dozen or more than a dozen from them if you have a big enough female. With my jungles, I tend to get 16 or so, but I've also had 13. Coastals, you can get, if you've got a massive female, you can get a 20-plus egg clutch.
Right.
Breadlie. A breadlie can get real big, and you can get 30-plus eggs out of a female.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and if you're producing just a bunch of breadlie, just be careful, because you're going to be sitting on a lot of baby breadlie, because they don't sell like, morphs and other things do. They, you got to have the right buyer, because they definitely come with a reputation of being big, although they're beautiful and red.
Right.
That's the thing with carpet pythons. You can't just produce a bunch and assume that there's a dense market for them.
Right. Dude, that was cool how it was just sitting on your finger like that, though, just kind of like perched on your finger. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, they do that a lot. At least yeah, so they'll bite, though. The babies are real snappy.
Yeah, that's all right, though. That can't hurt that bad.
It was like in your live stream the other day. It wanted to kiss you. That one came close.
Yeah, they typically do, but this thing was a little demon for a long time, and it's in shed right now, and it's not even trying, so they learn.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of getting to that hour mark. We were thinking maybe we would do the lightning round questions. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah.
Are you ready for that?
Born ready.
All right, I knew you were. That's the thing. That's what I like about you. Since the day I met you, I was like, this dude is ready. Always.
Sometimes my
okay, so would you rather vacation in Hawaii or Alaska?
Hawaii.
Okay, yeah. What is your favorite candy?
Right now, I think it's Sour Patch Kids.
Ooh, have you had the watermelon only pack, like just the watermelons? Dude. Oh my gosh, they make my teeth hurt. There's so much sugar in it. But yeah, anyways.
I live next to a gas station. I can go grab stuff whenever I want.
Dude. I'm gonna bring a bag of those to Pomona in a couple days. Okay, so bath or a shower guy? Showers, yeah. Wise choice. So this is a fill in the blank, and it's Taylor Swift is.
Jeez. Taylor Swift is an underwhelming presence that occupies way too much of the teenage mind in today's society.
Boy, that was our longest lightning round ever answer, I think. Jeez, I need to get out a thesaurus and figure out what you just said. All right, okay, so last question. Boxers or briefs, my man?
Oh, dude, I started boxers, but lately I'm briefs.
Yeah, you gotta have that support. I like it. I like where your head's at. And then the final unofficial lightning round question is button jeans or zipper jeans? Zipper fly.
Zipper.
I knew it. I could tell already. When you were looking at me. I knew you were going to say zipper.
Even if the hazard level is higher Zipper. I think I had a pair of button jeans, and it I don't have them anymore. Clearly.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, you know you're sacrificing some safety for a little more convenience. I will say, but
When you're in
hey,
crash, you're in crash.
yeah, no, I get it. I get where your head's at. I think Rich was a button guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rich McCall.
Yeah, I feel like Rich was just being nice to you, Joel.
Hey, you know
He
what?
felt
Here it
like
is.
he
All
was
right.
a
Yeah. Okay. So there it is. Now, here it is. Okay. Well, I'm gonna check him this weekend. All right.
If the pants fit and they're comfortable, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. That's my thing too. Actually, I think I actually only have one pair of button fly jeans, but I just like to harass everybody about it. But, yeah, dude, they're great. All right. I guess a little last little. We try to keep these at right around an hour. I don't know if anybody has some last minute questions. Maybe we can jump out at. And it is a special birthday coming up for our second guest of honor today.
Right. Got to give a shout out to birthday boy Loki. Tomorrow he'll be 1 year old.
Heck yeah! 1 years, man. 1 years. He'll be at Pomona too, won't he?
He will be guest appearing at Pomona.
Yeah, gotta come say hi to Loki.
He'll be accepting gifts. So he likes bacon. No, I'm totally joking. Don't anybody bring
Bacon, cheeseburgers.
The occasional beer that he knocks over.
Yeah, ground beef.
Oh man, dude, Riley, had so much fun tonight, dude. I'm always amazed every time I talk with you. It's just something new that I learn. I love that. We didn't get to bring up your experiment, unfortunately, that you did, the live birth. But maybe we save that for next time. So
Yeah.
And if anybody's curious to find out what I'm talking about, Riley does awesome live streams on his Instagram and YouTube, quite frequently. So give him a follow, subscribe, so you guys get those notifications.
Jump down there.
He does some pretty cool stuff. So go watch some of the replays that he's got up there. That experiment that I'm talking about was really cool. It's worth a watch, man.
Yeah, and next time I feel like we're just going to go rack by rack and just show off like every one of these snakes, because I feel like it's like you pulled out every snake you pulled out tonight. I was just like, what? That is so awesome. So it's so cool, and I know we just scratched the surface with 90 snakes there behind you on what you could really be showing us. So we're gonna have to dedicate like a whole segment, I feel like, to what does Riley have, and
right?
get that going.
That could get real crazy real fast. Oh, God. That's fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. Maybe we'll just do like introduce a segment, and we'll just clip in like 15-minute segments of what does Riley have.
Right.
Things out. Just see who bites me and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Sensationalize anything, but like if we do that, fighter, recent fighter, yeah, it would be.
And not to convince anybody that these carpets aren't friendly.
Yeah, well, no, yeah.
I did point out a rainbow bow and a ball python in that fight.
That is fair.
But it's usually very hungry adults. The babies, they're fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. Well, I mean, everybody, this is thanks for joining in, and like Brian was saying earlier, Riley will be at Cusco's booth in Pomona this weekend, so have to go over there and say hi.
Yeah, we'll be hanging. Sure. Thanks for having me on, you guys, and I'm stoked to see y'all this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Me too, man. Can't wait to see you.
All right, well, I guess that'll close it out. Description, get down there in the description, check everybody out. I have everybody's links down in there, so that'll take you right to the channels. I'm sure Riley hopes to see you on the live stream with coffee in the morning on Sundays. So until next time, thanks for having everybody, or thanks for everybody showing up, and thanks for letting us have you on here, Riley. We appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys later.
All right. Take it easy.